Hey everyone, and welcome back to FSI DFS. I am McKinley412, and today we're going to be breaking down the Sunday main slate, the 11-game slate happening Sunday afternoon. We do have some weather concerns that we need to be paying attention to right off the bat. Cleveland against the Reds in Cleveland. You got about an 80% chance of rain throughout the day there. It's probably your greatest risk of postponement among all the games on the slate. We do have other rain games in Detroit. That's about a 50% chance, so things can change with that one. And the other two that we really need to be paying attention to are St. Louis versus Chicago. However, I think those ones are going to be just fine. It looks like it's going to be raining before first pitch, but then it just kind of tapers off as the day goes on there. So really, one game is the main concern, and that is Cleveland against Cincinnati with the weather. Let's just dive right into the pitchers here. Right up at the top, we have Jacob DeGrom at 11.7K. We all know what DeGrom can do. We all know his ability. We know his ceiling and just how dominant he has been to start the season here. But at 11.7, his salary is starting to get to the point where it's getting difficult to put him in with another higher price pitcher and decent bats, or a cheaper pitcher and higher price bats. So at 11.7K, I'm looking for somebody that can get me at least 30 points. What I like to do is go at least 2.5 times the salary here. So 11.7 times 2.5, you're right around that 30 mark. So do you think you can get your 30 and your bats also reach their value as well at the same time? It's going to be difficult, but I think it's possible because there is value on this slate that we can find. Greinke at 10.8 is laughable. I think that's like the second or third highest salary we've had for a pitcher so far. And it's Zach Greinke, who hasn't reached the fifth inning in half of his starts so far this season against Toronto. So, no. Pivetta kind of did the same thing, 9.6. That's just way too high for Pivetta. It's a nice matchup and everything, but I'd like a better pitcher at that price range. I'd like to have somebody with higher K upside, and who I can feel comfortable with that can get me 23 to 25 points. GIOLITO, he's in a solid spot. He's got a 31% K rate so far this season. He's going up against Kansas City, who's your average offense here. But you can see his K rate is great. He's got a 31% K rate, and that is with an included game of 0, that Boston Patriots Day game that he had. So Kansas City's offense has disappeared. They got shut out 2 straight times at the time I'm recording this. Kansas City also had 0 runs tonight, and they were on pace for getting shut out in the 3rd straight game. So who knows what's going on with their offense, but GIOLITO top tier play here tonight. Alcantara going against Milwaukee. Milwaukee is injured. They struggle in the month of May. If you've been in our Discord, you know that we have a guy in there, Reichart 84. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But he's a big Brewers fan, and once May started, he was like, watch out for Milwaukee. They're terrible in the month of May. And then they ripped off like a 6-game losing streak. So maybe he knows something that we all don't hear. So Alcantara, price is a little higher than I'd hope, but definitely possible to fit him in there. Anderson, he doesn't strike anybody out. So having that price tag is an absolute no for me. Drummond for New York, he's kind of having like a Scherzer issue this season in that he's not allowing a lot of hits, but the hits he is allowing are going over the fence. 23% of the hits that he's allowed this season have been a home run. So I think Scherzer's around like a 24, 25%. So if he can limit the home runs, I think he's a great play. And he's going up against Washington, who is actually a bottom 5 team in home runs this season and a bottom 5 team in ISO as well. Now, they didn't have Juan Soto for a while. That certainly hampers things. But, you know, I think if he can limit the home runs, he's certainly a decent play there. Molly for Cincinnati, big rain game. I think it's going to be a postponement. But I got no interest there. Maeda going against Detroit. Anybody going against Detroit, I think, is on my radar and should be on your radar too, as a pitching option. Let's see, Wainwright right below him, going against Colorado, who really seems to struggle on the road here. his K rate is higher than it has been in his entire career. I think he's at like a 24, 25% K rate. He's always been like in that 20 range, 19 to 21. So to be up at 25%, that's pretty high. He's going to see some regression here, obviously, but he's going against a Colorado team that, like I said, they struggle on the road to produce any offense. So I just like this range of pitchers here today. Wainwright, Maeda, German, if you can limit those home runs. I think they're all decent plays here. Marquez, no. Smith, no. Hendricks is his price, 6.9K. It's gone down quite a bit here. He started the season high 7s, low 8s, but he's had major issue keeping the ball in the park here. Look at this: 4 home runs, 2 home runs, 3 home runs, put up a home run in a great start against LA. I think that home run, that 1 run, was in the final inning that he pitched here. So, but if you look at the weather forecast for tomorrow at Wrigley, you got 20+ mile-an-hour winds blowing directly in from center field. So his main hindrance so far this year at really kind of boosting his DFS points and his fantasy value is the home runs allowed. But if you got a 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing in at Wrigley, where the wind is even more of a factor, maybe 1 or 2 of those balls stays in the park and you can kind of knock 2 to 3 earned runs off of his plate there. So Hendricks, I think it's a decent play. Anybody else down here? I don't really have too much interested in here. Pearson, he could be kind of interesting. He's the #1 prospect for Toronto. He started for their AAA team, the Buffalo Bisons. Their home ballpark is right behind me here. But they're actually playing out in New Jersey this season because the Blue Jays are going to be heading to this ballpark here starting in June. So Pearson's the #1 prospect. He's got triple-digit velocity. He can throw that 100+ mile-an-hour pitch. He was dominant in his 1 start in AAA last week. I think he went like 4 innings, struck out 8 batters. So he was great. How he's going to do against Houston, it remains to be seen. It's not the offense that you really want to see. He did pitch a couple games, I think a handful of games last season, maybe around 5 or 6 of them. But Houston's not the guy that you want to see in your first one up here. Dunning, I think, is interesting. 5.2K. That's cheaper than a lot of the bats on the slate here. And just kind of look through his game logs here. He's only had 1 start that was absolutely putrid. It was against the White Sox here. But every other start, he's paid off his salary and then some. He's got a 24% K rate so far this season. And he's faced some solid offenses too. I mean, we're talking about the Angels, Toronto, Minnesota's got some pop in them, Tampa Bay as well. But at 5.2K, I think he's a great play. He's going up against Seattle. They're the bottom 10 team in runs produced so far this season per game. So if you really want to jam in DeGrom and mix him in with Dunning, you can really get interesting with the bats that you can get there too. Now, real quick, back to DeGrom. I didn't really talk anything about the matchup. He's going up against Arizona, a solid offense. You know, they've been hitting the ball really well. But I think at this point, DeGrom's nearly matchup proof. So obviously I'd love him to be going up against Detroit rather than Arizona, or even a handful of other teams rather than Arizona, but I still think he's a fine play here. Just, you got to watch the salary. Bats. Okay. There's, I'll give you guys 3 teams that I'm really honing in on for the bats here, and they're probably going to be popular. One of them, maybe not so much, but the first one is going to be Boston. Boston's going up against KREMER for Baltimore, who has some strikeout upside. He has solid K rate, but when he's not striking guys out, he's getting hit hard. He has a hard hit rate over 50% so far this season. You can kind of see his strikeouts here: 4 and 6 innings, 4 and 4, 6 and 4. He's got decent K upside there. But when he's not striking people out, there's a 50% hard hit rate against him. Now he's going up against Boston, who is a team that does not strike out often, which is perfect. So let's go back to Baseball Savant here. If you haven't seen this site, I highly recommend that you guys check it out. It is incredible with the amount of data that they have. So KREMER is about a 4-pitch pitcher. He's got the cutter, 4-seamer, changeup, and curve. So essentially 2 fastballs here with the cutter and the 4-seamer. So we can organize this and do it just by his cutter and the 4-seamer, the fastballs. He's throwing those on 75% of his pitches. He is a fastball pitcher. He's just going to try to blow it by you. But if he's not doing it, opponents are hitting 323 against him. Let's look at the Boston side. How do they do against the fastball? So like I said, you can filter all these things together. So KREMER, he's a 4-seamer, and the cutter. So we'll sort it by that pitch type. Batter, team, the Red Sox. We'll sort by WOBA. Let's see what we get. You get some pretty insane numbers here. Xander Bogaerts has a WOBA of over 500 against the fastball pitches that KREMER pitches 75% of the time. He's 22 for 52. Verdugo, 477. Vasquez, 428, 413. It is just unreal the damage that these Red Sox bats can produce against the 4-seamer and the cutter, the 2 pitches that KREMER uses 75% of the time. So Boston doesn't strike out. They're going up against a K pitcher who, when he doesn't strike out, has a 50% hard hit rate. And now you're adding these numbers into play as well. I don't see a way that Boston is not a chalk team tomorrow. If they're not, they definitely should be, because I think they're by far and away the #1 option. I mean, just look at these numbers. It's not a small sample size. I mean, it is in the grand scheme of things, but we're talking 40 to 50 at bats for these guys, and they're still putting up WOBAs in the 4 and 500s. So that's just absurd. Next team, it's going to be the Chicago White Sox. Oh, one quick thing about Boston that's also great is they do have a little bit of value there with Chavis. Chavis led off the game today, and he's min price. So if you're looking to get higher in the pitching with DeGrom and maybe a guy like Giolito, you can add a guy in like Chavis at 2K, min price, and you'll be doing just fine. Next team that I'm interested in, though, is the White Sox. The White Sox are going up against Mike Minor, left-handed pitcher here. White Sox, again, they have some nice value in their lineup here. Scrolling on down here, Madrigal and Vaughn, 2.6 and 2.5. Now, Madrigal has been batting like the 9 spot a couple of times going against lefties, but on Saturday, he got bumped up to the 2 spot. So if he's up near in the top half of the order there, he's going to be another fine value play. The White Sox against lefties, they are the #1 team in terms of batting average against lefties. Sorry, let's go to the FanGraphs over here for now. Sorted by lefties, sorted by average, #1 team, Chicago White Sox, by a large margin too. You can kind of see second place is 16 points behind. Third place is 26 points behind. Their WOBA as a team, right? This is as a team. It's not just one person is doing well. As a team, they have that. Their WOBA is 359 against left-handed pitching. So White Sox, definitely a top option, a team that you want to play against left-handed pitching because their whole lineup can be right-handed hitters. They have the power, they have the contact, they have the speed on the bases as well for some stolen base upside. I'm looking to Chicago as well. And the third team that I'm going with are the Yankees. The Yankees are going up against Joe Ross. Now, Joe Ross, if you look at the game logs, hasn't been terrible. Hasn't been terrible. But if you kind of dive deep into Ross's more analytics here with StatCast, barrel percentage. So barrel percentage is you're talking about you want a certain exit velocity and a certain launch angle as well. Those are the hits that produce the most home runs. They produce the highest average, the highest slugging percentage, those sorts of things. So Joe Ross, minimum of 100 plate appearances for pitchers so far. He's allowed the 5th highest rate of barrels to opposing hitters. So he gets hit hard. So he's had some serious luck with the amount of damage that he has been able to limit so far this season. So he's bound to get see some regression in those numbers that he has posted. So 5th highest barrel rate. He is a right-handed pitcher, and he is going against a heavy right-handed Yankees team. But the good thing for us is Ross is a reverse splits pitcher this season. So right-handers are doing the most damage against him to start off the season. So we have that going with us. So Yankees are the 3rd team that I'm going to be on. So just to kind of recap everything, DeGrom, top pitcher, but you got to make sure you're looking at that salary. That takes up a lot of your salary. And if you want to pair him with a guy like Giolito, your bats are looking dicey. But one good thing is that there is some value on the play. There's value in the Chicago bats, Chicago White Sox, that is. There's value with Chavis and Boston. Other pitchers that I'm interested in, I love this range here. The Drummond, Molly, if they play, it's a postponement risk there. Maeda, Wainwright. And then if you want to look at Hendricks with the weather, the wind blowing in, he's been hit by the home run ball a lot this season, but you got 20-mile-an-hour winds going in at Wrigley. He could be a fine play there as well. Pearson, no, top prospect, but I don't want him going against Houston. And Dunning, I actually think Dunning's an interesting play here. He's put up a solid K rate, going up against the bottom 10 offense at 5.2K. Definitely should be on your radar. 3 bats, Boston, Chicago White Sox, and the Yankees. The Boston bats against the pitches that KREMER throws 75% of the time. Just look at these WOBA numbers again. Just unreal. So good luck in your contest tonight. As always, hit that thumbs up button. We really appreciate it. Drop a like, drop a comment. What do you guys like? What don't you like? What stacks are you guys interested in playing today? So I'll see you guys in the next video, and best of luck. Take care.